My name is Ayan. I was 22 when I met Zara, who was 32. It was in a library. We reached for the same book and both pulled back at once. She laughed and told me to take it. I said we could read it together. Over the next few weeks, 2 cups of tea and a handful of quiet conversations turned into a decision that felt larger than our age gap. I knew people would talk. She knew people would judge. But we both believed that respect and truth speak a language older than their opinions. When my parents found out, they said I was too young and that Zara was 10 years older. My father asked about children in the future. My mother asked who would understand whom 10 years from now. I told them fear of tomorrow cannot eat the love we have today. We married simply, with just 2 friends as witnesses. When I called home, I was met with a long silence. My mother just said, "Think again." I told her the decision was made. For a while, that door stayed closed. We rented a small apartment with a window that caught an hour of sun at noon. Zara worked as a school counselor. I had an internship and a part-time shift in the evenings. The budget was tight, but the shared jokes were not. After 2 months, we were invited to a wedding back in my old neighborhood. I wanted to see my parents, even if it was just a polite hello in a crowded hallway. We walked into the hall, and people turned, the way people do when a story they didn't write comes in. Someone had shared an old photo of Zara holding a baby. It was floating around on phones. A whisper said it was a hidden past. Another whisper asked why we hadn't told the truth. The words felt like pins on the floor, and I kept stepping on them. I looked at Zara. She said it was her sister's child. She had taken care of him during a long week in the hospital. She met my eyes and waited. I nodded, thinking I had answered the moment, but my heart still raced. That was when my father stumbled and fell into a chair. The music cut in the middle of a note. I ran to him. My mother's hands shook. The ambulance came. At the hospital, they placed forms in front of us and asked for next of kin. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Zara took my father's card from my mother, filled in the details, called his clinic, and spoke to the nurse with a steady voice that made the corridor feel safe. The doctor said the next few hours mattered. My mother cried into the edge of her scarf. Zara held her hand and said, "I am here." Night stretched into a narrow ribbon of fluorescent light and footsteps. I sat quiet and counted my breaths. Zara found tea and placed it beside my mother, and then beside me. Then she sent a message, and a small boy ran down the corridor with a crayon drawing in his hand. He was the child from the photo. Behind him came Zara's sister, who looked like a tired mirror of my wife. She hugged my mother and said the photo was taken the night they came home from the hospital with her son. He had cried until Zara held him and fed him cake crumbs to make him laugh. She showed the original picture and a short clip on her phone, with my wife off camera singing the alphabet. My mother kept nodding, in a way that meant she was reassembling the world. It wasn't a secret marriage. It wasn't a hidden past. It was a short story of an aunt and her sister on a hard night. The room felt small in the white light of the ward. I stepped into the stairwell and told Zara that I believed her, but that I had still felt a sting of doubt. She looked at me and said, "Trust is not a noun. It is a verb. You do it again each time." I said I was sorry my face had wavered. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "We will practice trust like breathing." The nurse called us back and said my father was stable. In the waiting room, my mother asked Zara to sit close. She asked what a school counselor does, because children had changed since her day. Zara told her about listening more than speaking. She said you start by asking what the child already knows. My mother smiled and said, "You will need to do that with me as well." By morning, my father opened his eyes. He looked at me, then at Zara, and then at my mother's face, which had turned from stone into water and back into something softer. He asked me if I was happy. I said yes. He asked Zara if I made her feel safe. She said, "Most days, and we are learning the others." He nodded, squeezed my hand, and said, "Bring her home tomorrow for tea." He fell asleep again, and I stood there with a feeling like a door unlocking without a key. The next week, we ate at my parents' table. Zara set down a bowl of her sister's lentils, and my father asked for seconds, which is how he says, "I am ready to start over." My mother asked Zara about her school and about the boy in the photo, and how he was doing now. That boy, now older, sat under the table with my youngest cousin, building a tower from salt shakers and coasters. After dinner, my father took out an old album. He showed an image of my mother carrying my cousin at a hospital furlough years ago. "This was the night we brought her home when my sister was sick," he said. My mother laughed. People thought she was ours for a month. In that moment, the room grew larger than the rumor. It held older stories and newer ones. It held respect and simple food and the sound of children rebuilding a tower after it fell. I walked Zara home and told her the hardest parts were and only the judgment or the gap in years. The hardest part was remembering that love is not an argument you win. It's a practice you repeat. She nodded and said practice begins with ordinary acts. You bring tea. You fill forms when someone shakes. You look a rumor in the eye and answer with context. You let family change slowly in front of you. I thought of the library shelf and the first book we shared. I thought of my mother asking about her work, because questions are another way of opening a door. I thought of my father lifting his bowl and asking for more, because acceptance sometimes looks like a simple appetite. The lesson is simple. Age is not the story. The story is how you carry each other when the room gets loud. Thank you for listening to our story. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more.